So let's talk about guidance. This is a first for the company. We're going to provide BTC guidance, which we have done in the past. But because of the changes in FASB rules and our ability to partake in fair value or accounting for Bitcoin, we're able to now also provide GAAP guidance for 2025. I'll start with our BTC guidance here. And we start with an assumption of BTC price because it drives our ability to calculate what we think our BTC and our GAAP guidance is. And you saw earlier that the consensus is $167,000 by the end of the year for equity analysts that cover strategy. And so we thought we'd be conservative and start with $150,000 as a BTC price as of the end of 2025. And so when you feed that in, it drives a BTC yield percentage and BTC dollar gain of 30% and $20 billion. That is our guidance for end of year 2025. And that's building off of us starting at 25% through year to date and about $13.2 billion in BTC dollar gain. You might look at the 30% and the $20 billion. You might say, hey, that's pretty conservative. Shouldn't be higher. There's a couple of things to think about. First, we started the year with a BTC yield percentage target of 15%. So we're doubling that number 7 months into the year. And we started with a BTC dollar gain target of $10 billion. And we're doubling that 7 months in the year. I think for any company that's able to double their targets throughout the course of the year, you would consider that success. The other piece is, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, as we think about ways to generate BTC yield percentage and BTC dollar gain, there are equity and credit instruments that we can issue. The equity instrument that we issue is MSTR. And I think you've seen with some of the models that Mike went through and some things I'll share later, we think MSTR is undervalued. And so we won't be using the equity ATM as much as we have in the past. And it will be driven very programmatically based on the multiple to NAV. And I'll share that in a little bit. Earnings guidance. So this is our GAAP guidance for 2025. You'll see through the first half of the year, we have achieved $8.1 billion in operating income. Our guidance based on $150,000 Bitcoin price is $34 billion of operating income by the end of the year. For net income, through the first half of the year, we're at $5.7 billion. We think we can increase that more than 4x, $24 billion by the end of the year. And with an earnings per share of $21.60, we think we can achieve an earnings per share of $80 by the end of the year. Some of you might be thinking, are those big numbers? Yeah, they're big numbers. How are they relative to the rest of the market? I'll share that in a little bit. So our equity guidance. I talked about the fact that we think MSTR is undervalued, and in some cases perhaps significantly undervalued. And even though issuing equity anywhere above a 1.0x MNAV is accretive to Bitcoin yield and Bitcoin gain, we will, on a go-forward basis, be more disciplined about how we issue our MicroStrategy ATM. And here I want to provide guidelines to create more transparency with our shareholders. So you don't have to guess when Saylor is going to tap the ATM. You'll know when we're going to utilize the ATM on a go-forward basis. So first of all, below 1.0x MNAV, we'll consider issuing credit to actually repurchase shares of MicroStrategy. Means we're trading below net asset value, and so it would make sense and be accretive to our shareholder base if we were to issue credit and buy back MSTR. The bar we're setting for issuing the ATM on a go-forward basis is 2.5x MNAV. And so that means that if you see our MNAV below 2.5x, you would expect we would not issue our MSTR ATM and issue more equity for the purposes of buying Bitcoin. We would issue equity below 2.5x MNAV to pay interest on our debt obligations, our convertible notes, and also to fund preferred equity dividends. As you saw from Andrew earlier, the amounts that we would have to issue compared to our asset base, compared to amounts we've issued in the past, and compared to our daily volume are pretty small. When we get to 2.5x MNAV and up to 4x MNAV, we will opportunistically issue MicroStrategy equity to acquire Bitcoin. And give you a sense, 2.5x MNAV to 4x MNAV, that's about $600 to $1,000 of MSTR price. That would be the implied price. When we get above 4x MNAV, above $1,000, which is our view, the minimum that our equity should really be traded at.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have MicroStrategy in the channel.
So hopefully that provides some more transparency on our equity guidance. I also want to issue some more stretch credit guidance and clarify and provide more details into what we talked about last week when we launched Stretch. And hopefully this will also provide more transparency and take some of the guesswork out of how we're going to handle Stretch. So at the end of every month, we will issue guidance, or we'll propose a rate structure for the next month. And so what we'll do is at the end of the month, hypothetically, let's say August 31st, if the 5-day VWAP is less than $95 for Stretch, we'll recommend to our board and our pricing committee a 50 basis point or more rate increase. If the 5-day VWAPs be between $95 and $99, we recommend a 25 basis point rate increase. And if we're trading within our target price range, $99 to $101, we won't take any action unless the Fed has changed the overnight rate on SOFR and then we may change our rate accordingly. And if we're trading above $101, then at the end of the month, we'll recommend a rate decrease, or we'll issue a snap follow-on offering. So this is more clarity on how we think about our credit. So let's have some fun and let's talk